Play action pass out to Ben Vincent. Gets through a would-be tackler. He goes down the sideline, across the 50. Ben Vincent gets a block from Xavier Martin. And Ben, the freshman, could have his first collegiate touchdown. He does! Touchdown, Threshers! Hello and welcome to the Thresher Football Show. I'm Dan Page alongside head football coach at Bethel College, Josh Lawson. The Threshers are now 2-4 on the season, having played 6 games with 5 left in Kessinger Division play and a bye week last week. But before that, the Threshers get a great Fallfest victory over Sterling to get back-to-back wins to close out non-division action. Now, it exactly wasn't as pretty as maybe you would like, Coach, but for a second I was like, we shouldn't punt anymore.
It was sloppy. It was a sloppy game. I told the guys after the game I'm happy for them if they won, but I'm tired of sloppy football, and we got to clean that up. We've worked on it, for the last week and a half now, trying to clean up some things on special teams, some things on offense and defense. We just got to get rid of the sloppy play and be more consistent.
Yeah, for sure. In that game, it didn't seem like a lot of turnovers other than just the handling of the punts, if anything. And, take away 2 of those opportunities, and you guys, get, a victory there by even more than what it was. So, I thought that was great as far as how you guys responded. Kind of the football game, it was really defensive first quarter, seemingly. The punt error kind of gave them the touchdown, so it was 6-0. Not a really good, accurate indicator of where the game was going. But in the dying embers of the second quarter, you guys finally get on the board with a heck of a touchdown on a 92-yard pop pass to Trayvon Madison.
Yeah, that was a unique situation right there. Right before the play, we called a timeout, and Coach Brown's on the headset, and he's like, "Well, what do you think about this play right here?" And I said, "Well, what is the play?" And he said, we're gonna toss it to Trayvon. I said, "That's always a good play." So, it was, I don't think we were expecting it to go for 70, 80 yards, but it was a great play. Trayvon, we had some really good blocking on the edge, and Trayvon made that play. So it really got us some momentum going right there.
Yeah, get him in open space at any time, and it is just simply a foot race. And I think Kai Norris threw a good block, and then Noah did as well, and then your receiver on that edge kind of sealed that up for you guys, and he just had to outrun them all. So a really good play, backed up at your own 8, which that's kind of been crazy. The way handling ball position on punt returns and things like that, and sometimes it's not always something you can control, but it was just kind of one of those situations where you guys made the most of it to get on the board and got the all-important PAT to go up 7-6, and then you score again later in the quarter and on a pass play. And it's kind of interesting. Larry Cherry caught the football. There's 3 guys around him, and I think he learned last year more than anything that nothing is going to stop him when he's that close to the goal line of getting in, and it was a good adjustment.
Yeah, Larry adjusts to the ball well. That's his strength, is he goes up and he gets the ball. Larry's one of the better players I've seen at adjusting to the ball and going up and getting it at his high point. And he did a great job right there. And then, made a couple of moves and got in the end zone right there. So I thought it was a really, really big play for us. Again, when we needed the momentum, guys went out and got it for us. So that was really big for us.
Yeah, other than that, just a blocked PAT. You guys are up 13-6 at halftime of the football game, and Sterling just came back really hot out of the second half. They got the football and went down and scored and made it 13-all. Later in the third quarter, another issue with punt, and then they eventually take it in for a 20-13 lead. But flipping over to the fourth quarter, second and fourth quarter, something about that you guys decided to take over in those. A really good, it's kind of a play you guys been running a lot lately with the pass outside. I don't know if it's a design screen that way, but Ben Vincent did a great job catching the football first of all, and just recognizing what the defense was doing. They over pursued so hard on him. He just had to break through at least one, and he got into open space and did the rest.
Yeah, our screen game is important to us, and we work on it all the time. That's something I'm a big believer in, running the ball, and the screen game is part of the run game. And so we've really worked hard on that. And so Ben did a great job right there, recognizing what was happening to him, getting in the open field, and then finding the creases. I was proud of him. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was his first touchdown of his career. So that was big for him and big for us.
Yeah, it was huge. 70-yarder. I believe, and taken to the house to tie it up at 20, and then you guys kind of traded scores a little bit again, but it was key that you guys blocked their PAT to still take a 27-26 lead, and then drive down and score again on a Houston Aaron touchdown to kind of seal the deal. Yeah,
that was a unbelievable touchdown. He made a bad read actually right there. We're all on the headset saying, "What in the world are you doing?" And then all of a sudden, he brings the ball down and starts running, and it felt like the slowest touchdown in the history of the world. But Josiah had a great block on that play. The guy thought that Josiah was running a route, and then Josiah realizes it and just keeps running him down the field until he realizes the ball's being run, and then Josiah just does a good job of blocking him right there and gives him some open space. But Houston did a great job of, once he realized, oh crap, I made a wrong read, he just pulled the ball down and secured it and made a bunch of good plays. That's his strong point, is when he has the ball in his hand and he's kind of freestyling at times. He does a really good job with that.
Yeah, he did enough to be the Offensive Player of the Week in the KCAC, which was huge, especially for a freshman. It's with limited starts and things like that as well. But I know that I talked to him a little bit after the game, and I know there was obviously anybody on your team you could pick and say, okay, you can improve on this and this and this. And I understand some of the pitch and the reads that he kind of struggled with in the first half, but to turn it around like that, it kind of makes everybody forget about it in the stands, but it kind of keeps you humble.
Yeah. I mean, we got a lot of things to clean up in all areas of our team. It's that's what I tell my guys, like, the outcome's the outcome, and that's great, but the thing is, we just got to get better every day. And you have to have that process-oriented mindset, and I thought that was a good thing about last week is the guys came out on Monday and they knew they didn't play good enough on Saturday. And so they had a really good mindset last week, and during the bye week, we practiced Monday through Thursday. They had Friday, Saturday, Sunday to kind of relax and rest their bodies, and then we got back after it on Monday. And I think that's the good thing about this team, is they're starting to understand that the outcome, just if the outcome goes the way you want it to, that doesn't mean it's good enough. And so, I think they had a really good mindset of what do we have to do to get better.
Yeah, I mean, it's taking advantage of opportunities more than anything. And I used to have coaches tell me, it's like, when everybody's going to, do nothing on bye week, if you're the one working hard and getting better, you're going to be ahead of them by all means. So again, the Threshers get the victory on Fallfest, as it's a 34-26 win, and back-to-back wins, including the win at St. Mary to close out non-division play. I was really confident that you guys had the ability to win both of those football games, and I honestly feel really good about our division as well, that we could do some things and maybe surprise some people. But just kind of in that football game, that last one against Sterling, you guys rushed for 241, passed for 275. Houston completed 27 passes, 17 passes for 275 yards and 3 touchdowns, and rushed for 142 and 2 touchdowns, which was just a huge offensive output. For the longest time, I was wondering, okay, I had to ask Jared Maccabee about this. I was like, was that a handoff to Trayvon? Because it looked, and then he had to zoom in everything, because from where I'm at up there, it just, when it's like a jet sweep that you've seen your entire life, it's just like a handoff. But no, that kind of simple exchange is enough, just like a shovel pass.
Yeah, it's and it's really it's what we're trying to do there is we're trying to kind of leverage ourselves to, like, hey, if it's a bad, we pitch it, because if it's a bad exchange, it's an incomplete pass. So we don't have to worry about the fumble or anything else right there. So it's just a smart move right there to pitch that ball. In that way, if you have a bad exchange or whatever, it's just a incomplete pass, not a fumble.
Yeah, I never thought of that before. That's smart. I mean, look, you've been around quite a while, so you know how this goes. But yeah, that was a really good move. Noah Miller rushed for 83 yards on 16 carries in the game. I think he had like a 43-yarder or something like that he broke, which was great. He just kind of got down the field. Torrey Curry had 5 carries for 20 yards. Josiah Buller only had 1 catch for 5 yards, but like you said, blocked extremely well. Trayvon Madison ended up with 6 catches for 145 yards and a touchdown. That's his 4th touchdown catch and 30th reception on the season, almost for 350 on the year. Ben had just 1 other catch, so ended up with 74 yards and a touchdown, Ben Vincent. And then Larry had 4 for 37 and a touchdown as well. And then kind of looking over at your defense, defense had a game as well.
Yeah.
8 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 11 passes broken up. Yes, they threw the ball almost 40 times in the game, but it was huge. You only gave up 49 yards rushing, but 254 through the air. So defense, you kind of rose to the occasion.
Yeah, I think we played really good at times on defense. There were some disappointing times. They had a really long touchdown one time where our trace player was staring in the backfield instead of finding the route. And, when you get caught looking at the devil, he's going to take advantage of you. And I tell them all the time, the quarterback's the devil. He's not trying to throw you the ball. One time we had a trace player that's supposed to find the middle of the field man, and he didn't do that. And then another time we're in man-free coverage, and our middle of the field player is 4th and 18, and he's worried about an 8-yard dig instead of the touchdown pass there. And both of those plays, one of them's on 3rd and long, one of them's on 4th and long. We get off the field right there, and we give ourselves some room to breathe. And that's the thing that I keep telling these guys is, like, guys, I would like to have a game where I don't have cardiac arrest at the end of it. Just do your job, do it the right way, and those things take care of themselves. There's 14 points that should have never been on the board right there. And then you take the punts out of the game, the blocked punts, you're looking at 24 points that we could have saved ourselves right there. And so there's little things that we just have to clean up. But I thought defensively, the thing that this group does well is they run to the ball and they play hard. And so if they keep doing that, we'll clean up the little things, and things will go our way. We got out there on the edge, all of our corners are freshmen. We don't have a single senior. I think we have 1 senior that plays in the secondary, Kevin Hill. Other than that, we're really, really young back there. And so those guys are starting to learn down and distance and what it means to be in 4th and 18. Like, hey, guys, they got to get 18 yards for it to matter. So how about we take care of the 18-yard pass, not the 8-yard pass? And so those are the little things that we got to get cleaned up to help ourselves and give ourselves opportunities to win games that are tied.
Yeah, it's always helpful to think, okay, what are they doing here? They're probably going to go for the sticks in that situation, and deep is the deepest man. I used to get told at safety quite a bit and things like that. So, but yeah, in the game, A.D. Muriel 8 tackles, a sack, and 2 forced fumbles. That was huge for you guys. Jarek had 7 tackles, 2 of them for loss. Avery Richardson had 4 tackles. Frank Driscoll had 2 sacks. Again, big for you guys. Just 4 tackles, but the way you guys rotated in, that's helpful in everything. And Caleb Jefferson, I wrote this down specifically. The 3 pass breakups and the 3 tackles he had came at pivotal moments. When we had to get stops, and he is just he's almost menacing when he denies that football away from the receiver.
Yeah, he's CJ's come a long way in the last few weeks. And all of our secondary has, but to be a freshman corner, that's a scary thing to be, and he just gets better every week, and all of those guys do, and I've been really proud of, like you said, the thing that he does a great job of is he understands football. And so he understands when it's a screen down. He understands when it's a down when they're going to throw an out. He understands when it's a down they're probably going to go deep. So his understanding of football and his natural knowledge of it really helped him a lot.
Yeah, he's definitely come along. We saw it in the first game of the year against Southwestern, just his ability, and been very impressive for the Threshers this season. And so that kind of runs through things a little bit. Let's go and look through some results from that last week before the bye week. Southwestern wins 62-0 over Avila. St. Mary won 31-7 at Tabor. Turned around, and after you guys beat them, then they must have been mad about it. Go to Hillsboro and win like that. Now, I think that's maybe not a strong indicator of Tabor by any means, but still it's something that stuck out to people that week. Friends won 28-7 at Ottawa, and McPherson wins at Bethany 37-13, and then a low-scoring game between Evangel and Kansas Wesleyan, 7-6 Evangel. The Coyotes for Kansas Wesleyan ended the non-division action with 2 back-to-back losses, which is tough for them, and even tougher once they come around here to divisional play. But it's the Threshers and the Tabor College Blue Jays this week from Hillsboro. You can watch it on the KCAC network with the Tabor announcers there. Interesting statistic. There's one 4-2 team in your division. There are 4 2-4 teams in your division and an 0-6 team in your division. Now, that was kind of the case similar last season. Anybody that wasn't in the Friends, Southwestern, McPherson type division, the opposite division was kind of like that. So, but still, that means there's a lot up for grabs in your guys' division. And of course, this week, Tabor, it just seems like, I'm looking at this season, Southwestern, they played them within 7. Kansas Wesleyan, they beat. It seems like there are games, when it's a big game, they really step up for it.
Yeah, and they got some really good players. The thing I'd say about Tabor is they're really good on special teams. They got a receiver, number 1. He's a game changer. I think he averages about 1 out of every 3 yards that they have. He has it. So he's a special player. And then, and then they got a Mike linebacker that just makes plays. He's a little undersized, but he's everywhere. And so they got some really good football players. I tell you this, their defense flies to the ball. Offensively, they do some things to try to help themselves and try to get the ball to number 1 as much as they can and let him make plays. And, their quarterbacks do a good job of dealing the ball. I think they have 3 receivers right now that all have right around 170 yards apiece throughout the season, and they have that number 1 who has about 380 yards this year by himself. So they have some players that can change the game, and that's the thing that we have to do both offensively, defensively, and special teams is we have to understand there's some really good players on the other side of the ball. We have to know where they're at all time, and we have to try to neutralize them as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely. And, this is going to be a game that they're going to get up for. This is, for those that don't know, this is a huge rivalry between Bethel and Tabor. They call it the Minnow Bowl with the 2 Mennonite schools, different factions of Mennonites, things like that. But, Tabor's won the last 2 meetings last year here, which, that one fell apart for us. Larry Cherry had a huge game in that game, but despite that, Tabor edged it out. I wish we had review last year. That's all I'll say. There was a pass play down the sideline that was clearly out of bounds that would have stopped them from converting basically, and that would help things out quite a bit. But the year before at Tabor, some of these guys that have been around, they want to get this win in the W in this matchup, and no doubt they definitely have some guys. They're well coached. Coach Gardner's been there a while now. He's got his guys. They know what to expect from him as a coach and as the players' relationship. But this year, you kind of mentioned a few things. They're averaging about 19 points a game, 70 rushing, and about 184 passing. So, maybe not a strong indicator of what they're capable of doing. They've thrown 9 interceptions on offense in the passing game over the course of the season. But, like you said, have a few good rushers. A.J. King is the receiver you were talking about, number 1. He's got nearly 40 receptions of 500 yards, 10 touchdowns on the season. And, yes, they've got a few other guys. Tyson Dozier, number 8, and Evan Safeman, number 6 for them as well, and number 12, Holden Key. Those guys all involved in the passing game. The running backs, Cameron Collier, he can catch out of the backfield. Both of them can, honestly. So that becomes a huge part of their game offensively. So like you said, they're gonna try to pass the ball. How do they look up front?
They have some big boys up front. They have a guard that's huge, absolutely huge, and he's going to be a guy that we got to find a way to get around. And then they have a little guard that he's a little bit smaller, but he's a quick guy, does a good job in the run game and pass game both. So the thing that they do really well is they get the ball out fast. And so that's what we have to be prepared for, is them getting the ball out fast and then taking their shots when they're ready for it. We just got to play smart and understand what they're trying to do. I think they're probably going to try to throw the ball a lot against us, and I would too if I was them. I mean that's a smart plan by them, and so so we have to do a good job in rushing the quarterback, but also maintaining our rush lanes so he doesn't get out and start running and start scrambling and give their guys a chance. That's probably when they've been their best, is when the quarterback scrambled and some guys got themselves open. So we have to do a good job of containing the quarterback, and then knowing that hey. Number one, he's their guy. We can't just let that guy run open today.
Yeah, certainly. I was thinking about it a little bit when you guys were matching up in the Sterling game as well. They had some big boys up front. They kind of surprised me a little bit. You see things on film, but then you see them in person, and it's like, okay, that's going to be a challenge for you guys. And you guys, rose to that challenge, did what you need to do against them for the most part. But yeah, it's whenever teams can roll out, break you down a little bit, that's always difficult to defend. And to me, communication is so important, especially in pass coverage.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually what I talked to our team about right after we finished practice tonight, was our communication has to be extraordinary on Saturday. We have to be able to talk to each other, both offensively and defensively. They're going to give us a bunch of different fronts on their defense is going to give us a bunch of different fronts, and so our offensive line has got to communicate all that. But defensively, we have to communicate, and know what the formation means and everything else, and the situation down and distance. We have to be communicating constantly, and our guys have been doing a good job of that. They've asked the right questions over the last few days, so it's been good.
Switching over to their defense a little bit, they've got 6 interceptions, 5 fumble recoveries. They're giving up 32 points a game, about 200 rushing and passing. I mean, that's kind of one of the things that you can look at every game that they've played this year and see, what the better teams do successfully against them, and what are they getting better at gradually from week to week. But their leading tackler is number 10, Dusty Daigle. He has got about 50 tackles, 8 for loss, and 2 sacks on the season. Number 2, Cam Pear, 38 tackles. Number 47, Caden Seibel, 30 tackles and a sack for their defense. Those are just amongst their tackling leaders and things like that. But I mean, it definitely seems like they've shown some vulnerability to run and pass.
Yeah, I think the thing early, when you start looking at their statistics, early on they didn't know exactly who they were. I think they found out who they are in the last few weeks, and they do a good job. I tell you, the thing that I love about watching their defense is their defense flies to the ball. I've talked to our offensive guys about it for the last 2 weeks. I'm like, guys, they fly to the ball. We got to do a great job blocking, holding our blocks, and we got to run through some tackles because these guys are going to fly to the ball. They're in a three high safety shell for the most part. They'll spin down and play some quarters every now and again. But their Mike linebacker, to me, he's the one that makes them go. He's the guy that he's just he's everywhere. He's everywhere. You run a jet sweep and he ends up making the tackle. You run the dive and he ends up making the tackle. He's everywhere, and so we got to find a way to neutralize him as much as possible and try to get that thing to the third level to give our guys a chance.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing, when you get into open space, okay, yes, the pass is completed. Then your guys can go down the field and help make the play more than it is, by all means. Obviously you guys are limited to not have that when the linemen go, have to stay put for the while and everything. But on running plays, that's another thing. You just keep pushing them. They're going to push back, so whoever has the most guys, get the most out of the situation. Yeah,
we and the big thing is we just have to play. We have to play fast. We have to play fast. There can't be any second thoughts in our minds. There can't be any doubt in our minds. We just have to play with a lot of confidence and play fast, and be sure in the thing. you know what, they're going to do some things and we're going to mess up. They're going to give us a lot of fronts. We're going to mess up at some point. That's fine. But we got to just play fast. That's what I tell the offensive guys all the time. Like, hey, you know what, they can play it perfectly, but we still got second down. That's the thing about offense is as long as you hold on to the ball, you still got another down. And so I tell them, hey, we want to end every drive in a kick, whether it's a punt or an extra point or a field goal. We want to end every drive in a kick. And so as long as we hold on to that ball, we play fast, we'll give ourselves a chance.
Yeah, and again, just going back to this a little bit, just before the bye week, it surprised me. They lose at home 31-7 against St. Mary. It seemed like St. Mary really just had a solid control of that game. But for you, from what you saw, what did they do well that you guys can emulate?
That's a good question, and I'm not going to answer that question.
Well, yeah, I know how it is sometimes. I mean,
yeah, that's. I'm going to hold that one in my pocket, and we'll talk about that next week.
No, I give you full credit for that because I would too in your situation, by any means. I remember one time. This is years ago. I was in a press conference. And somebody asked Bill Snyder, "What's the game plan versus Iowa State?" And he's like, called somebody over and he's like, "Can you get this guy the game plan?" Yeah. That way I don't have to say it.
Yeah. Well, our game plan is to play fast. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. But yeah, it's kind of talking about those things, and then leading into special teams. It kind of really stuck out to me. Their punter, he has 15 punts inside the 20 this year. That's huge. Field position again. It's going to be probably bigger than any game you guys have played. Just because it's the next game by all means. But it definitely seems like they've got some talent in that style of special teams. But he's got a leg too. It's not just getting him inside the 20. He's averaging 50, 60-yard punts.
Yeah, he's their punter is really good, but their long snapper is where it all starts. He slings that ball back there and gives them enough time to kick it. And that's the thing that's important a lot of times in the punt game is what people don't understand is the speed of that snap is what sets everything up. And so I think that's something that a lot of people don't talk about, but their long snapper is really, really good, and he gets the ball back there fast, and he gives their punter enough chance to really wind up and kick that ball. And their punter is really good. Their punter's good. Their kickoff guy's good. Their kick returner is number one, and and so he does a good job as well. But they're really good on special teams. If I'm not mistaken, I think that their head coach was a special teams guy in college, and so I think he takes a lot of pride in that, and they do a good job there. And they got a bunch of older guys that are able to be part of their special teams, and they know what they're trying to get accomplished there. And they do a really good job on special teams. What we have to do is we have to try to neutralize that with giving ourselves field position, first of all, whether it's kickoff returns or punt returns, we have to do a good job in our blocking game and giving our guys a chance to return the ball. And then, on the flip side of that is we have to do a good job protecting when it's time for us to punt, and when it's time for us to kick off, we got to get down the field and we got to tackle guys, and so I think special teams will play a really big part in this game on Saturday. Yeah,
I saw in the Sterling game, then they were testing your middle row a little bit. Not necessarily wanting to kick to Trayvon or anything like that because, they probably know he can do some damage back there eventually. I mean, he hasn't quite broken a huge one this year, but he's fully capable of that. But it was good to see that your guys responded well to catching the football in the middle row there.
Yeah.
So, again, it's the Threshers and the Blue Jays this week from Hillsboro for the Minnow Bowl. It kicks off at 2 o'clock, and that everything else is either a 1 or a 1:30, and Tabor's kind of always done this 2 o'clock deal over the years over there in Hillsboro. But it should be, hopefully, weather behaves and everything like that. I know here this week it's been really rainy, and I know some Friday night storms are going to roll in, but right now I believe it's supposed to be nice and sunny on a Saturday afternoon for the Blue Jays and the Threshers. Again, at 2 o'clock, you can watch it on the KCAC network, or just head over to Hillsboro. It's the shortest road game of the year. And it's funny because my daughter doesn't get to go to a lot of road games, and she's like, "Oh, can I go to one for a change?" I was like, "Absolutely, let's do it." It's kind of one of those things. And but yeah, it's Bethel and Tabor this week. So let's kind of highlight some of this week's games because of the oddity of starting in week 0. Now we're caught up to everybody's playing week 7 of the college football season in the NAIA. And we'll start with the Bissell Division, and a big one is McPherson at Friends. The Bulldogs, ranked number 20 on the season. Friends number 5, and that's in Wichita. It's going to be a big test. Both teams beat Evangel. The Bulldogs took a little bit McPherson down there, and Friends 52-53 to nothing at home against them. But it's going to be a pretty big game. I think McPherson is able to be as physical as Friends is, so that's going to stick out the most. But it's just all about execution there.
Yeah, it's. I think McPherson. So funny story. Last week I got an email from the head coach at McPherson, Coach Fiskus, and he was sending his 2D roster, and I emailed him back. I said, I think you sent this by mistake because I'm not playing you big old suckers again. But I meant that, Coach Fiskus, that was definitely a compliment to you and your guys. I think that will be important, though. I mean, they have a big physical defensive line, and Friends has a big physical offensive line, so it's going to be a physical football game. Like you said, execution is going to be a big part of it when you're playing the flex bone right there. You really don't see that every week. You don't see it ever, and so if you can execute, you can give yourselves a chance. But you have to execute over and over and over again. I tell people all the time, the flex bone and the air raid, they're just the inverse of each other. They're the exact same offense. They're just inversed, and so they rely on the big play. And so what you have to do is you have to get them in long yardage situations, and that's where, like, when you look at our game against them, that's where we struggled, and that's where a lot of teams struggle is, Friends gets in that 3rd and short situation, and they know, like, hey, if we get to 4th and 1, we're going to go for it wherever it is on the line, wherever it is on the field. And so you have to keep them out of that 3rd and short and 4th and short situation. And so I think McPherson is built to give them a run, but Friends is a really good football team, and they're built to make a run at this thing. Both of those teams are built to make a run, not just in the conference, but nationally.
Yeah, last year, both of those teams built, like you said, the way they are built to go to the distance in the game, play hard, all 4 quarters, things like that. Went down to 1 point, and Friends was the one that pulled it out, and that was in McPherson. That was a huge win for them. And McPherson was the hot team in the conference at the time. Had like a 6 or 7 game win streak going into that football game, so that was huge for them. So that's at 1 o'clock. Also at 1 o'clock, Kansas Wesleyan is at St. Mary, and at 1:30, Southwestern is at Sterling to round out the Bissell Division action. And then switching over to the Kessinger Division, with the Threshers remain in as far as namesake goes. Ottawa is at Evangel. That might be a good game because Ottawa, they did fairly well against the Flexbone, and it showed that they could be a physical team. Though both of those teams are the last 2 teams you play on the road this year, so those are some of the ones that I circled in this last stretch that are going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, I need those 2 teams to beat each other up. That's and that's the weird part about football is, injuries play a huge part in this game, and you look at the beginning of the season and how things were playing out, and now things are starting to change a little bit, and some of it's about who's playing who, but some of it's about injuries. Yeah. The bye week came at the right time for some of us. It was important that we needed this bye week to get some guys healthy, and we did. We got a lot of guys back this week, so that's important to us, and that's going to play a part going down the stretch run of the season is who can stay healthy long enough to finish the season out.
Yeah, I mean, Sterling obviously against you guys didn't have their number 1 quarterback, Jaden Briscoe, either. So, yeah, I mean, it's things like that. I mean, guys that are hurt early can come back there late, or, maybe, it's kind of interesting to see how it evolves and how big of an impact those guys can make in the games. So Ottawa at Evangel at 1 o'clock, and then at 1:30, Avila is at Bethany. Those 2 teams, Avila is still fighting for that first win. Bethany may have the upper hand on that. They're 2-4 on the season. They lost to McPherson to close out non-division action, but had won back-to-back games before then. So that'll be a solid one as well. We'll keep an eye on that from Lynchburg. And then Bethel is at Tabor, 2 o'clock this Saturday for the Threshers and the Blue Jays in the Minnow Bowl. And then the next home game for Bethel will be a week from Saturday as Bethany comes to town. In fact, the Threshers play back-to-back home games this year. You get Bethany and then Avila at home. And definitely feel confident about what your team can do in those games. Obviously, every game, every this week opponent is the next big game for you guys, by all means. But that's just around the corner, so that should be enough for folks to come out and support the Threshers again. Both of them will be a 1 o'clock kick here against Bethany a week from Saturday, and then against Avila the following Saturday. So definitely, there's no excuse not to go to the games. I mean, even the away game is close by this time. So the next 3 weeks, huge for Bethel football. I kind of teased it a little bit, but the new national polls, Friends number 5, Southwestern number 16, McPherson number 20, and then we still have Kansas Wesleyan and Evangel receiving votes up there as well. So we'll see what happens. Evangel is capable of winning the division in the Kessincher now that they kind of broke free from some of those other teams that they shared a division with for a couple of years. So we'll see how that all shakes out, and I'm sure. One thing I've learned about this, somebody's going to be unhappy at the end of the year, no matter what, the way it is right now, and the dynamic of how the conference is. I mean, whether it was divisions or not, I mean, if you're the third guy out, you're not getting in. And it's rough by all means. But kind of looking at some other things here. Okay, we'll go back here to Fallfest because I know you did some participation and went to Taste of Newton. I saw you over there. I remember you saying the Veronica wasn't as bad as you thought it would be.
Yeah, I was, that was the first time I'd ever tried that, and when somebody said it was, I think it was, I don't know what was in it.
You don't want to know
or something in it, and I was like, man, I don't know if that sounds very good, but it was really good. And then I think we had some jambalaya that was really good, and so. By the time that we got there, a lot of places were almost sold out or the lines were really long. But we got to taste a little bit there and hang out, and it was really, really good. And we went to the bonfire on Monday, and they did a good job with that. There's other things that we didn't get to participate in because they were during our practice time, and we had to we have to take care of what we have to take care of. But Fallfest was good. I think the kids got to enjoy a little bit of it here and there, and. We had a great atmosphere that Saturday night. So, no more night games moving forward, which I'll be honest with you, I'm glad. I'm glad. When you have to sit around and think about the game all day long, it's a lot. And it's a lot of pressure that when you get to wake up and just eat and go play a game, that's what I love to do. When I was in Michigan, when I was at Calvin, almost all of our games kicked off at 1 o'clock, and I absolutely loved it. Whether it was a home or away game, you woke up, you ate, you went and played a football game, and I loved it.
Yeah, so it definitely makes it easier, breaking down film after where you're not doing it at the wee hours of the morning versus, maybe like 9 or 10 o'clock, maybe something like that along those lines. But yeah, going back to Fallfest a little bit, I always have my Taste of Newton spots. I get the chicken and noodles, things like that. There's always some good Mexican food as well. I like the old-time root beer stand as well. I always come home with that, and my daughter always wants some, so it's always a good one. But anything, well, I guess if you had to add anything to Fallfest, what do you think it would be? Maybe something that was maybe your guys could get to, something extra or something like that, or I know you kind of mentioned, this may not be necessarily for the players because they're focused on the game and everything, but it is an enjoyable experience.
It is. It's a good week. I think, the thing that was really awesome to me was how many alumni were back on campus. So we had we have leadership groups, and one of the projects that they had that week was who could take the pictures with the most alumni. And so I'm sitting there, and I try to eat in the cafeteria with my guys every day at lunch. And Friday, before before the Fallfest game, before the Sterling game, the Friday before, we're in the cafeteria, and a bunch of the guys were like asking me, they're like, Coach, is he an alumni? Is she an alumni? So I just stood up in the cafeteria and I said, hey, if you're an alumni, raise your hand. And there was like 30 people that raised their hand, and so all our guys just jumped up and started taking pictures with everybody. But I think the alumni really appreciated it, and it was good for them to be recognized by our team, and it was fun. It was a fun thing to do, but it was really nice just having all the alumni on campus, having the board on campus. All those people who really care about Bethel. That's what's important to it. I think we had a reunion with the class of 75, I believe. Yes. The team of 75, and that was really fun. I got to speak to them for a little while, and the thing that I told them, I said, because they asked me, they were like, what can we do to support you? And I said, well, obviously financial. We'll take every dollar you'll give us, Mm-hmm. And so that's a big thing. But the other thing I said is just like, hey, let these guys that are here now, let them know who you are. Go up to them and talk to them and tell them how proud you are of them, how much you care about them, because they need to know that the guys from 1975 and the guys from 2025, we're all on the same page. We're all going the same direction, and we all care about each other. This is a brotherhood. And I think after the game, what was really cool was how many of those alumni came out onto the field and talked to players that they had never met before. So that was really, really cool to see.
Yeah, they always have some good insight as well. Mm-hmm. From their playing days. I punted the football like this,
yeah. Oh yeah. I get to hear about the wing tee a lot, but
yeah, different times for sure. Okay, so last question: best game you watched during the bye week?
Ooh, that's a good question. So the games that I really focused on, which I watched Alabama's game. The Alabama-Missouri game, which that was a great game. Proud of the Crimson Tide for coming through right there. And then, I watched the Auburn-Georgia game, which was one of the crazier games of the weekend. I don't know how many people around here watched it, but there was the fumble at the goal line that some people said was a fumble, some people said was not a fumble, and then there was Coach Smart that called a timeout that wasn't a timeout, and so there was a lot of crazy things in that game. But those were the two that I really watched. But I would say the Alabama game was probably my favorite, just because I'm a graduate of Alabama, and I try to tell people all the time. They ask me, well, who are you a fan of? And I tell them I'm a fan of the Bethel Threshers, but I keep up with Alabama. There's a lot of guys on that staff that I'm friends with. Freddie Roach, he was a player there when I was a GA, and me and him still stay in contact. And Brian Ellis was a player for us at UAB when I was coaching at UAB. He's the tight ends coach there. Tevin Madison's the assistant defensive backs coach there, and he GA'd for me at Arkansas Tech. And then our offensive coordinator at Arkansas Tech is the senior defensive analyst at Alabama now. So I know a lot of guys on that staff, so it's really fun to just see those guys have success and be able to text them after the game and them text you back, and just kind of, have that relationship with guys that are coaching at that level, and for them to be able to enjoy it, because that's a hard level to enjoy, man. It's so much stress and pressure that when you get a few moments to enjoy it, I'm glad that those guys get a chance to.
Yeah, certainly. It's not for everybody, as they say. Yeah. Coaching is not for everybody. Pressure, a lot of different areas, by all means. So, well, I just appreciate you sharing that. I mean, it's everybody wants to know, those kind of things. But of course, this week you got a football game to coach and play, and it's the Threshers and the Tabor Blue Jays, and everybody here's hopefully can get over there to Hillsboro and support as much as possible, fill them up, and make it to where it's standing room only. I don't know. I mean, that would be great to get some support for the guys there in Hillsboro as Bethel takes on Tabor this week. So that's going to do it for this week's show. Thanks everybody for tuning in. As always, I'm Dan Page alongside Coach Josh Lawson, telling you to roll on.